Hi, my name is Giovanni Pino and this is Uncommon.
Hi, my name is Ellie Vaisman and this is Uncommon.
Uncommon is a production by Neuralle, an agency that helps both brands and talent tell their story. To learn more, just visit neuralle.com. That's neuralle.com. My guests this week, Gio, Ellie, co-founders, CEO and director of Sourci, an Australian sourcing and supply chain company. Gents, we got there in the end.
Yes, months of work.
I felt like I had some good icebreakers to start with. We could talk about the new Cremorne office, or Richmond really, the espresso martinis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or James Harrison, but I was told to ask you about a Kills story.
Wow, that's a good one to start, yeah.
Who wants to take that?
So Akil is our first ever full-time employee at Sourci. And he's still with us today.
Wow.
Early 2019, late 2018. Gio and I had done everything and wore so many hats, but we thought it's finally time to have somebody come on board. So one night after we were talking about this, I was just having a jog with a friend of mine down at Elwood Beach. Yeah. And I used to work in this ice cream truck, pouring ice creams on the beach. This Mr. Whippy type thing. And
you used to?
I used to before that, just as like a summer job.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd just run in and see if I can use the ice cream machine. Some random guys working there. So while I was pouring ice cream, the random guy who was working there, I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he asked what I did, and I asked him what he did, and he was just finishing a degree in logistics and supply chain. So I kind of just said, "Hey, have you got a grad job?" And I think the rest is history. Pretty much, we hired our first recruit from an ice cream truck.
Nice. But then we actually, after a few weeks, we said, you know what, it's not working out.
Really?
And we actually went to let him go, and he said, "Come on, just give me one more chance." And ever since that moment, he's been able to prove himself, and he's actually still the first and longest standing Sourci team member, and now he's actually part of the induction story of Sourci. So anyone who joins the team, they get this half day of induction, they get to know the story, and there's a Kills little segment in there about the guy we met at the ice cream truck and the guy we tried to let go.
But that's the shit, man. That's like what culture's all about.
Exactly.
Like
right.
people talk about culture being like something that's written on a piece of paper, but in reality it's really just those stories.
Yeah, I think this year was really, we did like a week of planning offsite at the start of the year.
Yeah.
First time we've ever done it. Management team, we covered pretty much every topic, but a big part of it was actually talking about the values and the culture of the company. And I was always someone who thought, those are like buzzwords, right? We've got a great culture, we've got really strong values. But sometimes it's not tangible, right? It's a feeling or the way a company treats people. And the further we get into this and the more team members that we have, you see the culture and the values of the company. You can see when someone's bought in or they share those same thoughts and values. And when you actually plan and put effort into those things as well, even though it's, like I said, intangible, you can't see those direct results, you know that it does pay off. It's something worth investing in.
You become almost like a gardener. Like you're sort of curating this thing.
Exactly
like you
right.
can't control it. You can't just walk into a group of, I don't know how many staff you got now, but let's say 20, 30 people and just say, hey, do this or hey, do that. Because what they're thinking in their mind is completely different.
Exactly.
Particularly if you've got someone who's like very against what the founders think. Like it's this really hard thing that you have to do.
And I think once there's enough people within a business that share those same cultures or values, anyone who doesn't, it's really easy for those people to almost...
They get found out real quick.
Yeah, they stand out, and and then it's kind of, they leave at their own accord. They feel like they don't fit in.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's also contagious as well. So the more everyone around you sort of shares and hypes up with the right values as well.
Very true.
It sort of breeds more of those same behaviours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've got this thing where it's all about the vibes. That's your word.
Yes, we brought that.
Are we 2 minutes in and the vibes come up?
This has made my day.
But It's so fun. And like, you know, you've got this whole meme on a Friday with Leo. Is it Leo Habibi?
Yeah.
What is it?
Halabi.
Halabi, yeah. Absolute legend of a guy.
Habibi, for those who don't know, for all wogs is an affectionate term.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I've noticed that you guys have that, which I actually think is important because it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you try it for a few months and then you just let go of it, and then people become, I don't know, there's a natural cynicism, I think, in any company, just because you've got this relationship of the founders, the managers, and the employees, and having like leading, quote unquote, is something that you just like have to always be doing.
Yeah, you're always on.
And vibing is probably part of that.
Huge part of
the
that.
biggest motivator you'll ever see.
Part of the
mate.
cornerstone of the culture.
Yeah.
Especially on Friday. I mean, every day, but especially on a Friday.
Yeah, but you could argue that comes, like that is what, you know, you both have things that you bring to the party. I mean, it's obvious that your sales background would bring that as well, because that is an inherent thing. Like sales is fucking hard, particularly when you come from organizations like Metricon, etc., where it's high octane type selling, and you like to be motivated. Like I was saying this to Lauren the other day because we were walking through the park, and like we do every night, just got to get our steps up, you know, wear tread, that whole stuff. And we were just talking about how I have this issue because I'm in charge of new business and strategy, that anytime someone comes to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, guaranteed new client. You just have to have that positivity. Where she's inherently cynical and it's like, oh no, we only really want this client because I just want the people we can put on the website. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, which is a fair point, because in most cases, half those people become tire kickers or whatever.
True. It doesn't work out.
And it doesn't work out or whatever. So yeah, it's just like a thing that I reckon you get from being in sales is you just always
to see that the win.
Optimistic. Everything's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And you have to be like that to make it so. So you're both from, let's say, European stock.
Yeah. Mostly.
Mostly. What's the earliest memory you guys have from your childhood?
Mine is so when I was very young, my parents both worked. Yeah. So as all WOG families do, the grandparents are within 5 minutes of wherever you live.
Yeah.
So we used to have, my nonno had a big block. It was actually 2 blocks in St Albans. The house is at the front, and the second block was just a veggie patch.
Wow.
And it was just figs, tomatoes, castanhas, you know, chestnuts, everything. And my earliest memories were pretty much just picking fruit. It was putting me to work at a young age. But it was, you know, as a kid, you don't realise how not normal that is, to have that huge variety, and you're just sitting there. And I think even some of the first 5 or 10 earliest memories, it's almost always with my grandparents instead of my parents. Yeah.
I'd argue I had a very similar experience, although my grandparents didn't have the veggie patch like that. he was more into feeding magpies, like he fed magpies and shit.
Some spare pieces of bread.
Yeah, and the other thing was like being in my dad's factory all the time, which is just you could not do nowadays. Like a 7-year-old just wandering around like a fucking
You have a hard hat on, you push behind his best.
Oh, dude. I used to sit on the side of like a 20-ton printing machine.
Really?
Like, and just be like playing with the oil on the on like the grate or something like that. Like I could have just got up and just poked my finger into like the drum
digits,
and gone. Anyway, you can't do that shit anymore. What about you?
Different times. Just thinking back to like an earliest memory would be at a park, I think at a family barbecue get together, me riding like a tricycle or something with our family friends, kids, you know, everyone out and about, everyone having fun, parents enjoying themselves, just social situation, just really positive memories, really positive. Yeah.
That's so you, isn't it? Yeah. That's so.
You're saying the word vibe.
Yeah, just you can see the word vibe is starting to like scroll on the back of his head.
I've got to say, I'm so impressed that we've already brought vibes in like 3-4 times.
This is the last time I get
I wonder how many like closed door conversations you guys have had where you're like, now look, Ellie, I know you like vibes, but
Do you know?
Too much vibes.
We've gone through like a really big rebrand recently, and we've been lucky where the branding agency has really come on board to learn about us as people and I guess the culture of the company, not just a new logo, but who we are, who we want to be, and we had to say from very early on, I had to actually say how much I didn't prefer the word vibes to be in our new language, but I think it's going to make its way.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, and it's good to hear that the agency is actually like, because the problem I find in agency land is a lot of agencies don't do the work.
Yeah.
Which is very hard though if most of your business is small to medium businesses, because you need the time and the money to go in and really investigate.
Yeah.
But good agencies do that, and often you find things like brand truths that sometimes you don't want to be, but you have to own it. So I found that really interesting, because I've been reading a book on that in particular about brand and branding.
Yeah.
So it's very topical that you raise that. How did you guys meet?
Was it year 11? Accounting class.
Okay.
I'm glad you remember, actually.
What school did you guys go to?
Sandringham College.
Sandy High.
Yeah.
So up until year 10, you go to separate campuses. So he went to the higher campus, I went to the Bowie, and then they bring them together for year 11 and 12. So
in Sandy, like at not the back, but the front of that soccer pitch. I used to play soccer at Sandy.
Yeah, it would have been there. Yeah.
Played soccer there as well. Do you play for Sandringham or another team?
Sandy, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was really weird with Sandy. You got the zoning was like relegated to basically everywhere past Sandringham. Like as in it's a Bayside suburb, but you were not in Bayside.
Yeah, you technically
relegation.
weren't. Yeah.
So you we'd play games against like Dandenong, Frankston, etc. It was really odd.
Berwick and all sorts of.
I always thought what is my dad doing here? Like we live in like Hampton, then Brighton. Why is he? Yeah, because then we'd be driving like an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, all the way out to Dandenong to...
Dandenong Hills, that's my fondest memories, is like playing soccer, it's pissing down rain, my hands are numb, score a couple goals, and then you come home and like have a warm shower.
And a big feast.
And a big feed, always like some sort of pasta or something like that. Okay, so you met each other at high school.
Yeah.
In accounting.
In accounting, we
stayed in contact since then.
Not really.
No.
At the end of the day, we shared probably like 5 or 10 friends.
Okay.
And we knew of each other, but high school's like that. Either you're in someone's group or you're not, or you say 2 words to someone in a whole year, even if they're in your class or not. So, and you think about how many classes you actually have. To have one with one person isn't that many. So we pretty much didn't stay in contact. We would see each other though eventually out at the same parties.
Okay, so similar social stuff.
But even then, it would probably be 1 or 2 a year, and that was it for since high school till when we actually sat down and started talking about Sourci.
And how many years after was that, do you think?
Probably 8.
8 years?
I was literally going to guess that.
8 years, we probably had a handful of conversations in that time.
Because
is that right?
I'd say it's about 8 years or something like that,
Yeah, if you look at your career history, it makes sense, because Sourci's been around since...
2017.
2017, okay,
very late 2017.
Late 2017, because I know you had the procured business for 12 months, then there was Allied Print Australia, then Sourci came about with Ali, and Ali had his time at Metricon and a few other sales organisations. Makes sense that it was 8 years after high school. Why found a business together then? What was like the spark?
So what had happened was I had a really rough idea of what Sourci was at the time. I'd actually gone to the Melbourne Accelerator program. The night, and I went there with my partner. I was pretty over my printing business at that time as well, so I was ready to get into something a bit more serious. Went to MAP and all these businesses, or all these students and new incubators, they got up and they talked about what their business was and how they've already, and these businesses already had investment and were in the alumni, and they were just there to talk to potential investors and I guess share what they're doing. And I remember just sitting there going, Jesus, I could come up with something like this. And I went home and I just started talking to my partner Danny, and I wrote a few the word Sourci on the whiteboard, and because of my printing business, I knew that there was a big opportunity there with manufacturing and importing. And I ended up going to a friend of mine and saying, hey, I came up with this kind of like booklet or brochure of how it would work, what the business would look like. I said, are you interested in doing this? And he goes, yeah, it sounds pretty cool. And I invited him in, and then he goes, we should actually get Ellie involved in this. And he was still in touch with Ellie at the time, and I was like, fuck, I haven't spoken to him in a while. I was like, I wonder what he's up to. And I was like, yeah, why not? And it's funny how things work, because that friend ended up backing out eventually.
Really?
And then Ali ended up, just taking that step up, and he really forged what it is now. Then it was just an idea.
Why do you think he said Ali?
Exactly the reasons why. I think Ali's always had, this is my opinion, that you've always had a knack for business, or you've always wanted to. He's incredibly driven and hardworking. And I think that, he's someone that you want by your side, especially if you're going to start something. So I think that's why he said, let's see if Ali wanted to get involved.
Tick of approval.
Yeah. That's it. It's paid off. Good investment.
It has paid off. Yeah, because it's always interesting where you get into the early days, and it's such a hard sell, like particularly when you're the person that creates the idea or has the initial idea, and you're selling it to other people, and you think it's such a great idea, like, because you're wedded to it.
Yeah.
But most people are just like, oh yeah, like it's good. But then you find people who really like believe in it.
Yeah.
So I'd definitely say that was probably a component to it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think from my perspective as well, I'd tried my hand at different little entrepreneurial ventures. I really, really respected Gio for the things that he'd done in his previous businesses as well. And also, I had sort of the idea or the concept of sourcing really spoke to me. So I was just like, that's 100% something that's going to help that many people.
Yeah.
And when Gio explained it to me, all he said, like the biggest thing that stood out in my mind from what he was saying was, I just want to help people.
And I think you mentioned in Harrison's interview that you'd actually like had an idea around a product, and you basically dropped it because of not the difficulties, but you realised how much of a task it was.
Yeah, it would have perfectly helped me 6 years earlier.
Because it was almost like scratching your own itch in a way.
Yeah, it's like if I'd had a company like what Sourci does, my life would have been different. I would have been successful or had a lot more chances at success in importing and having a brand, and so I'm sure we'd get into that. But it really, the concept was really attractive.
Even though we had very limited experience or understanding of how we would execute it, we still just knew that there is something here.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes matters more than anything.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we were going through our first hire with Jacob, our producer, and I was like debating, okay, do we hire someone who has the experience, or do we hire someone who's really passionate and gets the brand, the idea, etc.? And at the end of the day, it was actually a call with Lewis Spears, a comedian we've had on. He's like, dude, 100% go for passion and I don't know what the word is, but someone who just believes in the idea.
I agree.
Because you can learn shit afterwards.
You can't buy that. You
cannot buy that. You cannot convince someone otherwise if they're not that way inclined. So, I'd agree with that. And to be honest, most businesses start out that way anyway. A lot of people think, this person works in this industry, they go out, they start a similar business or whatever. Yeah. It's never the case. In most cases, it's you're solving your own problem.
Yep, exactly
right.
Or
you've been pissed off with something in your industry and the way it's done, and you think it could be done better.
Yeah.
They're like the top two in people that we interview.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so it was late 2017 the business was founded. Run me through up until 2019 what those first 2 years were like, and particularly I'm thinking about at what point were you able to draw a wage, and what point were you able to hire your first guy? Akil, was it?
Yeah. Akil.
This might put off a few people from starting a business. At least you know it ends well. Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, go far through this.
I think when we say started late 2017, really that's when we kind of registered something or bought a domain name, right? There was no trading at that time. Then, to be honest, the one thing that we did do was I went and found one client, and I actually went and did the work and to know that it was something there, that there was value. We did that before so many other steps, but it was just this, let's just see if it's a thing. Let's see if someone wants to buy it, how much they want to buy it for, and what's involved for us to an extent.
Tested there before you scale it out.
Exactly right. And we were lucky enough to get quite a good client. And I came back because we visited in Queensland and came back and I was like, okay, let's actually figure this out. And because of my printing business, previous to that, I used to go and buy goods from China overseas. And I was really naive, right? Because if you're buying, let's say, a printed good in China, all you're really doing is buying a pre-existing product and putting branding or a logo on it. So it's really low-level manufacturing. It's low risk. There's not much to it. And I kind of took on the thought of all manufacturing being, maybe a bit harder, but nowhere near what it actually is, right? It's not easy to make a product.
Yeah.
But Ellie and I both knew that we had to be beginners. We had to learn. We had to spend months. I think the first 3 or 4 months was how does manufacturing in China work? How do we find potential people overseas that we can employ? How does freight and logistics work? What do different Incoterms mean? And it's one thing to have someone in a business sit down and go, this is how this works, right? It's straight from the horse's mouth. When you're two guys in the same room and you're just kind of like on Google being like, does this sound right to you? What do you think this means? It's the blind leading the blind to an extent.
Yeah. I know exactly what that's like.
You're just trying to make it work, as you go. And I think that was the first 6 months was just kind of, we knew that we had to take it slow. The other big proponent to that is, if we did bring on a client, that's someone's money at the end of the day. That's someone's, if they're going to buy from a factory that we recommend, that's risk, and we treat every client's money as if it's our own. We would never say, invest $100,000 in product with this factory if we had our concerns or our doubts. And it was like that from the start. We weren't in a position to do that to anyone, and thankfully we haven't in the history of the business. So we knew that we had to be really confident, or to an extent that we know that nothing would go wrong for the clients that we worked with. So I think that was the first 6 months.
So that would have been 2018, and then you start to. At what point could you quit your jobs or move away from the businesses you were in? That would have been like 2019, right?
Yeah. Do you remember when you finished up Metricon?
Late 20. I think I finished up September 2018. So pretty much that whole year was, and you were still working in Allied Print and managing that business. I mean, it was my 2 days off per week that I'd get. It was morning through to night, and then Gio went in between every other day, and we'd be working at his house in East Bentley. Yeah,
it was very much a slow burn, I guess, in that sense as well, where it wasn't, we both quit and we jumped into this 100%. We had to set ourselves up because we knew we were probably a very long way from getting a paycheck in doing this as well. So, yeah, I think late 2018 is when we kind of wrapped up what we were doing. And I think by then we had at least gone to China once. What we'd done is we literally just jumped on Upwork, the freelancing website. And just try to find people in China that can do product sourcing. We realised that you can't do it from here. You need someone there, local language, building a team.
So like a procurement specialist? Or
someone with history in actually sourcing products and manufacturing. And we were lucky where we had about 20 people, 30 people that we spoke to. We probably had 4 or 5 that seemed okay. And realistically, we needed someone with a good level of English because neither of us speak Mandarin. Neither of us will speak Mandarin. We took classes, we were just trying everything. We were taking cultural classes, we were taking language classes. We really wanted to figure out what's the best way. But we ended up getting over there and we interviewed 2 guys or 3 guys and flying around. We found one really great guy named Derek. And that's when we kind of came back. And I think that was the start of 2019. And that's when we started saying, okay, let's start taking on clients. And that's when the next challenge came, which was how do you find customers, right?
Yeah.
We, again, being super naive, we just thought procurement people, they love to save money. We can help them save money. Let's go message every single procurement person we can find on LinkedIn. Procurement people hate sourcing people.
Yeah.
Because if you save them money and help them, they see it. And this is my interpretation, and not all of them are like this, but a surprising amount were. They feel like you're actually doing their job for them. Yeah. And it's, it's a threat.
Makes them redundant.
Exactly
makes
right.
them redundant.
Yeah.
Makes them look bad.
Even if you could help, they still don't feel that that's an appropriate.
That's so funny. Your story, like the story that you guys have about your business, gives me a lot of confidence in what I'm doing right now. Because honestly, like what you're saying was like the first year. Like what you said, that 2018 was probably like 2019 and a bit of 2020 for us. Because we, like I said, we had that one client, and I think they actually came back recently, like hitting us up to help with something, but they're a podcast client. And it came about because they were like, oh, how are you doing your podcast? Because we've been running this for 2 years. It's a hobby. Can you help us? And basically all that year, we just published and worked on their podcast and a few others, and it paid for all the equipment, the development of processes, finding people on Upwork. That's the hardest part, is knowing, like now we could hire people quite easily, like specialist freelancers.
Yeah. But you don't know what you're looking for.
But you just didn't know what you were doing, and you'd run into all sorts of traps and issues.
Yeah.
And so that first year was literally all about that. And so it wasn't really until last year that we sort of then we're like, okay, now we need to scale.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, because I reckon your first client is easy, because it's always like a friend or an acquaintance, and it's just a one-on-one relationship. But going from 1 to 5 is fucking hard. Like, how do you find them? And we've gone through that at the moment, because there's this thing in agency land. It's that this guy Dan Monheit tells me. It's called the 5 A's. Where you do anything for anyone, anytime, anywhere, at any price.
That sounds like you.
We've been there.
You've been there, right? Yeah. So we've cut the anywhere, any price, anytime, and anything. So we've culled down to like what we specifically do, the pricing, all that sort of stuff. The thing that we're struggling with now, that I was telling you before about that optimism and wanting to do business with anyone, is the anyone.
The anyone,
So how do you quantify that, and then how do you find more of them?
Exactly right.
And I think that's what this is about.
Yeah, I think
So
niching kind of, once you're established, it's a great thing, because then it's, you're the specialist and you're sought after. But I think definitely all those A's, when you're getting off the ground, you've got to kind of follow those.
You just take on whatever you can.
You take what, because you got to, that's the thing as well, like you just got to make money.
Exactly right.
Because you got to pay for people's
the doors still need to stay open. Yeah, there's expenses. It doesn't all stop. Yeah,
it doesn't stop, and that's what I'm always thinking about. That's so fucking funny. So now we can get into the year of 1 mil to 43 mil, and talk about COVID later on. But I'm just really interested. I sort of had not this epiphany, but this realization because of what has happened probably in the last 6 months with China on trade. You both came in for an interview and founded the business at probably one of the most fascinating times, I'd say, in the history of Australia's trade. The only other time I could think about it was World War II, when we split from the UK and moved to sort of the US focus. The only other time might have been, I think it was like the 70s, 80s, where we pivoted. The country just moved away from the UK when they left the EU. They went to the EU, and then it all became about Asia, and we're all in on Asia now. I mean, geopolitically, everything we do as a country has always been about the fact that we're on an island, and because of that, and we're rich in resources. We've got lots of good shit here that we can ship out to other people. And because of that, we're good traders. We're good, like we're mercantile in terms of the way that we operate as a country. We send out lots of stuff and buy stuff to bring it back in, right?
Exactly.
And you guys are sort of really at the pinnacle of that, because we've had this era where the balance of trade was in the negative, and now we're finally going in the positive, and sort of Australians and Australian businesses are cashed up for various reasons, and they've got these opportunities, and they're realising that the trade of goods is sort of what we're good at. and you're probably getting more and more people hitting you up and being like I think I was reading the other day that although all these retail firms have shut down, the pivot to e-commerce has been so massive that the prices for what are they, like factories or factory spaces that can be converted to warehouses has gone up like 30% in Queensland and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because supply chain has become monumental just in the space of a year.
That's fair. No surprise.
At all.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are probably part of the next generation where I think in the few decades, this will be the trend of what is Australian trade.
It's true.
And so I was just curious, like, what do you see as the headwinds and the tailwinds for Australian traders of goods who are in this sort of e-commerce, wholesale, or whatever you want to call it, space?
It's a good question. I mean, it's so broad. So what are the trends?
Yeah.
Or, sorry, where's it going?
What are the trends? Like, what are you guys wary of? Like, as an example, I've noticed you've invested a lot into an Indian team.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you're thinking about in your own business that will probably be lead indicators to what eventually affects people down the track?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, so definitely, as you mentioned, we're heavily investing in resources and growing our footprint in countries outside of China. So that obviously from, I guess, a geopolitical standpoint, you know, obviously a lot of companies are wanting to diversify, have traditionally imported or purchased goods from China. They're obviously wanting to look outside of China. That's, you know, thanks to the trade wars with Trump and a whole bunch of different sort of political things, and COVID hasn't helped that. So yeah, definitely we're focusing on India, we're focusing on Vietnam, we're focusing on Taiwan, Thailand.
And that's, you know, it's more and more prevalent. Like, for instance, a really big indicator for us is just even through our social media and paid ads, the amount of negative comments you now see for Chinese goods or people buying. There's this stigma that's out there at the moment.
So has that meant that you guys have started thinking about sourcing locally in terms of building resources there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very proudly. Very happily, yeah.
Because that's become like, we had a brand come in recently that's launching a steel, it's like a grinder sort of plate that you put on like for sheet metal fabrication workers or like boiler makers and stuff like that. And they're like one of two in Australia that make it. But, you know, the comment is people don't want Chinese made stuff.
Yeah.
They want at least Australian-owned stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it can be made elsewhere, but Australian-owned is like fucking paramount.
The hard part is everyone says it, but no one wants to pay for it.
Exactly.
And you know, it's as hard as it is. We love China, like in the sense of the team that we have there, the most beautiful people. They're just like you and I, right?
Yeah.
There's some things that they can't control, right? The government influences, like we can't control the way that the government portrays Australians.
Yeah.
It's the same there as well. The people that we've hired and that we get to work with, some of them we've worked with for over a year, you know, 16 months, 18 months. They're great people, you know, they've got lives. I know that they've married, they've got kids. They're just like anyone else that you know. The hard part is China still is the leader in some or a majority of categories of production right now. Plastics,
electronics.
Yeah, even batteries, because they're so set up in the sense of, you look at, for instance, your iPhone. It's not all made in one factory. There's components that come from one factory, another. So even if you went to build iPhones in India or Vietnam or even set up your own phone manufacturing business, you know, you need all those other players also set up in the country as well. Otherwise, you're importing parts and you're assembling it somewhere else.
Yeah, that was actually just on that. I remember when we caught up for lunch and you were talking about that fact, and that was when I had the realization that, you know, what you guys are doing and offering for people is really like bringing in-house, like an agency would, bringing all of the components of literally building the thing yourself.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to make an e-commerce product. I'm going to try and beat Zoom. So I'm going to make these recorders, right?
Yep.
And I'll just go to a manufacturer who makes recorders. But actually where the real value is building designing the recorder yourself with a specialist, and then buying all the components yourself and just having it assembled. And that's when you were talking about those components is what really drove me. So when people say, why are you investing in all these different countries? Shouldn't it just be like this one new country or whatever? It's because you're trying to collate all these pieces of paper to make a book.
And each country, you know, like for instance, India or Vietnam, they're going to have their own categories.
Specialty,
Exactly right. You're not going to just say, I buy all my products from India now, because India's not going to be set up in the way to be able to supply or manufacture those goods. You know, a big part of what dictates where products are made is, you know, access to technology, access to raw materials, access to all government support. You need a good mix of all those things together for it to be viable, right? It's only once, you know, those categories are established, like for instance, India has their own foundries for steel.
Yes.
So then you can start having, you know, structural steel made there. You can start, you know, having the mills. That's when it works, right? But if you try to do the same in Vietnam, there's no mills or there's no foundries there. You can't say I'm going to have my steel made from Vietnam. Yeah. So you're limited to what that country's investing their time and resources into as well.
Yeah. So the argument that Australia should become self-sufficient is just never going to be a reality, simply because each country will always have its own competitive advantage.
Exactly right.
It's very difficult.
And that's why, you know, in a way, businesses like yours will flourish, because there will always be a distributed supply chain in some way.
And that these emerging countries like India and Vietnam, China's gotten quite, you know, good at doing Western business, right? They know how to invoice, they know how to interact, they know how to, you know, the flow. Countries like Vietnam and India, they're still kind of green in that sense, especially these emerging factories or industries. You know, they'll need a hand on both ends, not just someone here who we represent to find the factories, but also the factory themselves of how do we filter what they do and say that doesn't freak out someone here because they don't have that experience in, let's say, exporting or communication.
Yeah, a lot of it is always communication based.
Exactly right. How do you sort out those problems?
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the real value component, is like just trying to communicate to that person, it's okay, this is what is actually happening. You. Yes, you. Are you intrigued by this episode? If so, go to our footer on the website, neuralle.com, neuralle.com. We're going to give you an insight. Each week it's going to be on business, marketing, or a topic that we covered in the episode. At all, we'd love your support, and it would help us in developing the intellect around this series. But without going on too much longer, let's get back into this episode. I'm curious then as to, apart from the obvious ones in Vietnam and India, which have been like at the tip of everyone's tongue, I think there was even like some event that the PM went to at the start of 2020 in Vietnam with some trade delegation of some sort to promote Vietnamese trade. But are there other countries that are surprising you at the moment or intriguing you?
Definitely. I think for where we're located, other countries within Southeast Asia, so Indonesia was definitely going to become a manufacturing country, as well as the Philippines to an extent. What you'll see though also is even parts of Europe. If you've been into H&M recently or Zara, you'll see on the back of the tags made in Portugal, made in Turkey, Spain.
Yeah.
So
Morocco.
What a lot of bigger businesses are doing now
in Greece, I've noticed a lot.
They'll have the mills, but these big businesses will actually set up manufacturing hubs in these areas that are logistically make sense. So if you're serving European clients for fashion and clothing, you'll have a production hub located somewhere within Europe. Same for Asia, the Asia markets, you'll have factories set up in Vietnam. So you'll actually see logistics play a big role in where people set up their manufacturing hubs, because it takes weeks and weeks to move goods from Europe to Australia. It's 4 times is it 4 or 3 times the length of time to send something from Turkey to Melbourne than it is to send it from Indonesia to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And those things really impact a business.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, no, there's some interesting trends when it comes to that as well that I want to get into. Like this thing about CANZIC. I don't know if you've heard about that, but like a free trade agreement or a free movement agreement between Canada, New Zealand, Australia. Basically extending our agreement between New Zealand and Australia with the UK and Canada, which would open trade significantly. But I want to get into that just a little bit later. Let's look back at the last 2 years or so. The most interesting thing is you did $1 million in 2019, and then that thing in the AFR was like 43 million in 2020.
Yeah.
What do you think was the defining factor in that?
It was probably right place, right time.
Yeah.
To an extent. I mean, we had by then had an office. We'd finally moved out of my spare room, which is good. We used to have 4 or 5 employees lined up in my lounge room at one point, and they'd knock off at 5, and then my housemates would come home at 5:30. It'd be this interchange, all these monitors lined up.
Monitors everywhere, people in other rooms. And
So at what point did you get the moment to say, okay, we're going to move offices?
I think we just hit a point where money was coming in. We were feeling more confident, I guess, about the business, because at the end of the day,
consistency.
you're signing a lease. You're guaranteeing something for an extended period of time. So we kind of just said, all right, let's start looking, and you do the numbers and you make sure it doesn't kill you. And we kind of said, okay, let's do it, and we signed. I mean, when we first moved in, Ellie and I were there painting walls. Picking up furniture, just
marketplace, everything.
Just trying to make it look like a nice office.
Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace. Just trying to make it look like an actual office for our team. And then within, I think the weekend we moved in, like officially moved in, was when Melbourne went into lockdown, and it was called a pandemic. So it was just perfect timing. I remember looking at Ellie, I'm like, well, we've spent all this money, I'm still going to come in every day. I was like, I'm not going to go back to working from home. So we ended up working from there, and we started getting all these inquiries to help with PPE.
Oh, right. Wow.
So
that would have been.
It just started with basic things like sanitizer,
literally all sorts of PPE. Sanitizer was really, really in short demand or short supply then, and masks and gloves and all sorts of different things. So we're actually concerned at the start, because we just invested everything to an office. We thought, we're making this is all happening now, and then for day one everything shuts. And we've just moved into South Yarra, where you've got the whole Chapel district, not one bar or cafe.
Didn't get to experience any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a ghost town, because our office is actually adjacent to South Yarra Station.
That's right.
There was like the first 2 days where you'd see people, and then it was like nothing, no one, like just like literally just the metro staff and no one else walking on those platforms. It was like a ghost town.
By the way, for anyone interested, that office is currently up for lease.
It is up for lease.
P1/7 Yarra
Street. Look it up.
I saw the listing the other day on commercial real estate, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have still got it listed?
We just put
went
it
up.
Actually,
I just went up
a few days ago, I think, like a week ago.
Yeah, we've just let it sit there for the last 2 or 3 months, because we've had so much going on. We're just like, shit, we really need to do something with this space. And it gets all the, I'm going to sell it. It gets all the light in the morning.
Great lighting.
Great location, 2 car spots,
great
private
view.
elevator.
What's the sound like?
Impeccable.
Sound?
You can barely hear the train.
You couldn't have a
record
studio.
fine?
No.
We didn't build any walls or anything, but it would do well if you had closed off rooms.
Yeah, you could have a closed off room in that.
But Ellie's right when he said, it was a little bit scary, because a lot of our clients actually turned to us. The way our business works is, we do a lot of work at the start. There's a lot of finding the factories, establishing relationships, getting samples completed. Then you move into production, and we charge to perform that initial research, and it covers the cost of us to actually perform it. But where we grow as a business is when the client is ordering, and when we're helping them reorder, and it's continuity.
Yeah.
But it takes on average sometimes 6 months to get to that stage, right? So it's a really, we're on this journey together, and we finally had so many projects at that point of them going to ordering, and they'll call and be like, I've just lost my job, I can't, or as a business we've got to cut some of our spending.
Yeah.
And you can't say anything to that.
No, you can't.
You just that's absolutely fine.
What do you say? Oh, how dare
Just
you?
spend some money. Done too much work.
Just sentiment, like the whole economy. I mean, everything went down. People are worried. People have no idea. There's uncertainty, all that kind of thing. So it's hard to kind of, try to motivate people, which we love doing, and just sort of say, like,
it's going to be okay. Just spend that $30,000 or $50,000.
Which
that might be your lifeline money.
But retrospectively, that would have been a great move to pull the trigger. The sooner the better.
And do you know what? The clients who did do it, they're thriving.
Yeah, they pay dividends.
It's e-commerce. I mean, majority of the businesses we work with are in that space, online space.
Yeah, I remember you guys had an amazing content series, which had me thinking. It was so funny watching it because you did it all in 2019. And then it hit like the start of 2020-ish, but it was like published in July. And it was for the end of 2019 so you're obviously like booming and then COVID happened and then you just fuck. But it was around the types of businesses that you were working with or things that you were sourcing in particular.
Yeah.
Which it's just interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Even if you're not planning on doing that, it's just interesting.
It's interesting and you know what, you see the trends, you see the eco-friendly products, you see where it's headed, right? And we could see this demand for direct-to-consumer goods, and we'd see the demand for people wanting biodegradable packaging and eco-friendly products, and even things like baby products and pet products. We've just seen these industries that are starting to be really, really ramped up now.
Yeah.
Where people want to spend $60 on a nice dog collar.
Yeah, that exists. It really does.
True.
So, okay, so you've started off 2021. I think it looks like you've got, I don't know what the head count is, but it looks like somewhere in the ballpark of 20 to 50 staff now.
It's just about to hit 50.
50, okay. You've got the new office, beautiful office in Richmond/Cremorne. You've got your areas of purchasing, procurement, e-commerce, sourcing, prototyping and development, which is probably in that whole research category. I think I read that team members in Indonesia, China, Singapore, the US, Philippines, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, Mexico and Turkey. Mm-hmm. Where does the business and its founders go in 2021? How do you go from 43 million to whatever? What do you actually want for this year, personally?
I think with the growth that we've had, it's put a lot of stress on everyone. From Ellie and I it's been great, right? It's still good problems to have, but as a business, everything's just blown up, and you realise that when you grow that quick, there is, to a degree, internally some lack of processes and systems and a really solid foundation. You've got to almost rebuild it up, right?
Yeah, it would have broken in the process.
Exactly right. And having a nice office is one thing, but making sure that every project is well looked after, that our clients succeed, that's the bread and butter. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. So in that 50 people that have been put on, there's now a management team, a really experienced management team. There's an accounts department. There's experienced researchers. There's a marketing manager. There's an office manager. It's now where there's a developer. It's all these people where we're almost going to catch our breath for a little bit, rebuild the foundation, and then really kind of expand again or grow again.
Yeah. I think you guys have commented to me personally about being frustrated with certain things, whether it's a website or a this or that.
Yeah.
And I can imagine now you've got the money and the resources to hire people to do that, and it will take time to see the eventual results in that. Even you've got a developer, but it takes time to develop a website. It takes time to develop an actual go-to-market in some way that isn't just based about inbound.
And that's the plan is, for us this year, is we are building our own proprietary platform. And that is, there's two really big outcomes from it. One is for us to better internally manage projects, to have it all consolidated, for it to allow us to jump in and know where something's up to at all times, for a system to be built behind it. The other is, there's this huge need where for someone starting out or even some established businesses, they don't even know where their suppliers are, where their products are. It might be managed in a spreadsheet. There might be some files they have on their desktop.
Yeah.
What we're going to create for them is pretty much just like a supply chain platform. where they can, log in and submit new projects and specifications, where they can see their ordering history, where they can track their samples, their freight, the logistics, even to the point where they can make international payments directly to the manufacturers, all through that one platform. For them, it's going to hopefully add so much value to what they do.
Is this, you're thinking like a SaaS type platform?
It would be like a Shopify.
Okay, cool.
So, but a bit more technical in that sense. But you've got your dashboard, you've got your inventory, you've got the projects and the comments. There's communication that runs through it as well.
Yeah,
it's hopefully going to bring everything together, because even us as a business, there's and you probably know this as well. You've got Monday, you've got Trello, you've got all these project management tools. And it's like fitting a square in a circle hole.
They don't fit perfectly.
They don't play well together sometimes.
Emails, phone calls, all those things.
Exactly right.
We'll just log everything and make sure everything's tracked and all centralised.
But niching down on something in and of itself is valuable.
Exactly right.
That's really exciting. Have you guys ever spoken together about the idea of listing one day? You have?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think that's the goal. I think when that AFR article came out, we had a lot of interest from VC funds, which is good. It was interesting to have those it was insane. There was about 8 within 2 days that reached out as soon as that AFR article got published. So it was just surreal at that time.
Yeah. You don't have to tell me, but I would be very intrigued if Canaccord Genuity reached out, because they're amazing locally. They just actually listed Playside Studios run by Jerry Sarkis.
Yeah. We're following that.
I went in on that because I'm just like, if you know, this is why I'm so excited. And I asked you because if you know founders that you're excited about, you want to bet on them.
Yeah.
And Jerry was one of those guys, and they're going to do pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah,
And he's got a similar story to you guys in terms of slugging it away for a couple of years, and then you have that moment.
Things start to click.
Things start to click,
Did Cheltenham Sec or something? You grew up.
we're
Very
local,
similar stories.
Hey,
local.
Bayside boy as well.
He means business, so I mean, he's definitely one to put your money down on.
Yeah, but we have had that conversation of, let's get everything right. Let's be attractive to an investor, right? Because we're not going to list straight away. We'd probably go and do a Series A and really then expand. One thing that we're not doing is we don't have an office in the US in the sense of a sales team and a presence. And the beautiful thing about Australia is it's a great place to understand the market, because as consumers, we want great service, great quality products, but we want a good price. We want, we're kind of high maintenance. And the US is very similar. So once we can figure out how to best service clients, build this platform where it's getting used quite well, take that cash injection, go and build a bigger office in the States. And the difference is when a customer comes to us here, their budget might be, $50,000, one container, because that's what the market demands here. There isn't enough buyers.
Well, the economy is only so big. Yeah.
Exactly. But in the States, it's 10 times. Those same customers want 4 or 5 times. And for us, that's more valuable. They get better value from us, and we get better value from them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the obvious thing is, now I think about it, is a Series A to expand in those Kanzik/Western countries, because they're your chief customer. And that's probably where the next leg is from here.
Exactly right.
Which may take time. But then all of a sudden it will be quite rapid. I think about a similar business, a private business here, Ibis World. They're in the sort of data intelligence space. I actually worked for them, and they had that moment where they actually spent like decades here in Australia, and then they realised that actually this is applicable to Canada, the US, the UK, and they expanded their offices, and it was hard work, very hard work, but it paid off massively.
Yeah,
massively for them as a family.
Yeah.
So they've done very, very well from that. I've got to ask, I noticed in Ali's interview with James, there was discussion of service, and you guys have spoken about it in caring for your customers. I think I, as a founder, you just naturally are that way inclined. Otherwise, the businesses never really grow because people don't trust you. And I find that too. I feel really guilty, not guilty, but like I'm always very wary of people's money and the things that we're doing.
Yeah, cool.
Sometimes underselling maybe what we're actually doing. And, you know, I'm literally having a conversation with our client strategist this Friday around what is service to us as a business. And we're going to have just a coffee at my old boss's restaurant, and she was the one who really taught me about service and this Greek idea of philotimo, which is basically like being humble.
Yeah, I like that.
So what is it? What does service mean to you guys individually? Maybe we'll start with you, Ellie.
Yeah, well, look, and I think we will never ever let go of, I guess, the core reasons or principles that Sourci was founded on, which is really to make a massive impact, to help businesses, to help people actually achieve what they're trying to do. So to hold a hand, to guide them, to add a lot of value. So for us, that's, you know, we just always want to make sure that every business we're working with, that we leave a big mark, that we really help them get to where they're trying to go.
Yeah. It sounds like in that initial research stage, you guys try and go above and beyond.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like a loss leader that then turns into something that makes you money.
Yeah, it's very long term. I mean, the whole modelling or the structure, the way that we've done things is very, very, very disruptive in the sense that we've taken this age-old industry, who I guess fortunately for us, we knew nothing about or not much about from an educational standpoint, and just took it and flipped it on its head, and we're literally just here giving all the tools, all the resources, providing everything, and giving everybody the best opportunity to thrive in their respective industries, to get the best products, everything.
What about you, Gio?
You know, like I probably said earlier, was transparency is such a big part of our culture. And, you know, being that person that pretty much treats their money and their product and their project and their idea as our own. You know, that's from everything from making sure we don't share their intellectual property, you know, that we're finding for them to get not just the cheapest factory, but the one that's most suitable for them or the best that can make them the best quality of product. And, you know, always having them at front of mind in every conversation, you know, I think that's really important. And I think if we were a business that bought and sold, you'd try to be working on what's the best margin or how quickly can I get this done. But for us, it's let's do this right, let's do it once, let's set it up, and let's always make sure that the client is represented in the right way throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sort of sounds like you guys have this thing where, like, I just tell the clients everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really withhold much, which can sometimes be to my detriment. Like, because sometimes I'll be too honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we get a lot of clients who just haven't even hit the basics of marketing, and I often tell them that they're wasting their money. And I don't want to take the business from them. Which is very hard to do in the short term because we need that money.
Yeah.
And I actually think sometimes it probably pisses people off.
Yeah.
Like it rubs them the wrong way.
Grateful for
I don't know that these people
real.
are, but maybe down the track, yes.
Yeah, I think once they see that, you know, that feedback might be hard to hear because you can't understand it.
Yeah, maybe a year or two once they've gone through the frustrations of doing that and not getting the results they want.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's, you know, maybe they realise.
But being authentic, you know, it is really important. I think you know, people gravitate towards, you know, even if they're comparing you against someone else, but you're completely honest, sometimes brutally, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, you know, not good news, but you're honest.
Yeah.
You know, they know that what you're caring about is them. Like really, you're thinking about it from their perspective, not your own.
Yeah.
So, what's service to you? How would you define that?
I think it's that, like, because I'm reading this book on luxury marketing that James recommended ages ago, and I bought it in the recent stack of books that I got from Amazon.
Because you need more books.
Yeah. I've started stacking them like in like that. We need to expand this whole thing, but I'm just like hanging out till we get to the proper studio. But it's really hard because in the luxury industry, I've tried to come up with this idea that we're sort of like a premium service in the space that we are, which means that we do things that are included in the price that ordinarily wouldn't be. Like at the moment, whenever we onboard clients, we always send them like a marketing plan and they have to do it. Whereas a lot of people would charge for that. But for us, it's more like an investigation research process that is very helpful. And it gets the whole perspective, and then we can actually say, actually, you should really be thinking about this. And, you know, we give people forward strategy and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like going above and beyond is like a component of it. That was the thing that I learned from Angie, is like she would always, you know, if someone's having a good time, she's getting good vibes from them, she'd bring them out like an extra plate of something, or, you know, like, oh, hey, taste this wine with this. Like, no, it's fine, it's on us.
Yeah.
So there's 1%ers as
it's
well.
The 1%ers. You mentioned it prior to the 1%ers is like the key thing. And then I was just, the thing for Friday is like, how do we make that more effortless for us? How do we get better
how do you
at
almost automate that it's
how do you because I can't you know, I've tried communicating to staff like, hey, if this person you think shouldn't be doing this thing, I want you to just tell them or come to me and say it, and then we can tell them. So that's like communicating what they should be doing, but how do you actually ingrain it into processes? So that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. But yeah, the 1% is like a no-brainer. I think.
And it's more, it comes down to the modelling or the structure of your business. But, you know, I think very similar to what you do, you know, we are in a lot of ways an agency in a lot of ways. So what that means is, you're not buying and selling a product where you're having a you know, margin and it's either you win or they win, like one or the other. It's like a tug of war. But what we do, it's the more value you can add, the more you can help, going above and beyond. It actually benefits them, which in turn benefits yourself. You grow together.
Relationship.
So you could, you know.
I think in one of your testimonials with the guy with the strawberry punnet things, the plastic thing, and he was like, "Oh, I realised these guys were, you know, like they weren't in it for a quick buck. So maybe it's that is like being authentic shows that." I'm going to ask before we get into rapid fire questions. What's a question you guys always get in these interviews that you wish you didn't, or is a pain in the ass? Like you must get like the regular one, I'd assume based on reading interviews, was like, what's the up and coming thing, or like what's the trending this, or what's the trending that? I think
one thing that I think it's not that I don't think it's a pain in the ass. I think it's just a touchy subject is China, because a lot of people expect us to either, you know, be at the mercy or under the thumb of China, or to say negative things, right? For us, we're very neutral. And I think I don't mind speaking my mind and saying that I love China, as in the sense of the people and the culture and my experiences with it. But I can just, I know it's a bit of a touchy subject. I know that some people will sit there and go, well, he's just been bought, hasn't he? Just, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I don't see these issues as much as maybe what you see on the news, and we're so in it, right? Like we're dealing with manufacturers and trade every day, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're having a hard time getting your goods out of China." I'm like, "No, why would I?" Like everything's still normal. So I think people want to hear that there's more of a problem than what there is, and I don't want to sell it like that if there's not as well.
But that's also, you know, that's a talking point for people when they have their first meetings with you, and they're sort of, you know, not awkward, but it's just something to talk about other than how's the weather.
Exactly right.
What do you wish that you could talk about more in these interviews then? What's a topic that you guys personally would like to talk about?
I would love to talk case studies, which we're sworn to secrecy by a lot of our clients, but I would just love to tell some of the stories, the impacts,
some of the cool stuff we've done.
The cool brands we work with. Like,
could you change names and industries?
Yeah, I can make up a Bob and a Fred and, you know, Bob's products.
Rhymes with.
You know. But yeah, I think that's one thing that, like, the storytelling that we could have.
We're getting better at kind of, you know, we've just gotten our media release. Ali's been great. He's put together media release form, and Evan, our marketing manager. And I think once we show, you know, our website gets 20,000 hits a month, visitors a month. And our social media, you know, there's so many thousands of followers and even the ads that we run, that if if we can show clients that by saying that you work with us, what you're saying is you invest in making sure the products that are made are compliant, that they're good quality, that you've had someone help you with it. It's actually beneficial, but I think some clients like to move away from that stigma of, okay, well, you helped them, the product came from China. Even though when you open the box, or if you're a consumer, you buy it, it's always going to have that label at the bottom. So I think, once we get better at positioning ourselves that there's a lot of value in us talking about your case studies, which some clients actually see. It's always the biggest companies that want to be the most tight-lipped as well.
Yeah, that is an issue. How do you work around that?
Yeah.
That's the interesting question.
We love it. We ride the highs. Like we want to tell the success stories. You know, we get really, and we ride the lows as well. Like very much. But yeah, we just want to be able to get around.
The stories, like you said, is the good stuff. Like the war stories around. Maybe it's like a horror visit to a manufacturer or.
Just stuff that you wouldn't believe as well.
You guys must have a lot of leading insights into the state of the economy just by seeing what people are asking. That in and of itself must be interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, rapid fire questions. Best purchase under $200 for you guys personally. Who wants to go first?
You go first. I don't even know. I might have to think about this.
I bought. This is such an old man thing to say as well. New bedding.
Okay. Like linen? Or?
No, just a good pillow, good doona. And I've realised that how important sleep is.
Oh, yeah.
And before I used to be, like a boy, you have the same pillow you've had for like 3 years. You'd take it with you, every house you move to. And lucky enough, Danny, my partner, was like, we're going to Pillow Talk. You're going to buy new pillows. And it has actually changed my sleep. And
have you done the whole koala mattress thing?
I've got a koala mattress.
You what?
Oh, you
I've
do?
got one.
You got one?
Yeah, I've got one.
I think I need to get a new mattress because I've still got a mattress. It's an amazing fucking mattress, but it was like a hand-me-down king size from my parents when I was like 22, 23. It's like 7 years old. So I should probably replace the mattress. The base is all right, but maybe just, get a new mattress. Ellie, what about you?
Can't think of anything.
Nothing.
Super.
Surely there's a car-related product.
I'm so thrifty.
Gym, dog.
So thrifty.
He's
Dogs,
actually very good.
none of those things are under $200. I wish they were.
Come on, surely the dog's got like a $50 Kong or something.
But James would attest to this. The washing your car for less than $10, doing it yourself at a car wash.
Yeah.
Bring in your own sponge and cloths and everything, and it's better than anyone else can do.
Yeah.
So where do you get your car washed now?
I might not have enough time to do it myself that often, but
He's got a team of people
washing your own car.
Do you go to the place on Punt Road or like
Crystal Car Wash?
Yeah, Crystal Car
Yeah,
Wash.
they've sucked me in now because it is.
How much
very
is it for a wash
convenient.
there? $80?
It's you get unlimited washes for what is it? $80 a month.
Yeah, there's a few packages. Yeah, it's $60 a month, I think, and then you can go up from there.
Maybe I should look at that.
You go there, you read the paper, you sit out there.
I love cars, so I'd be and I just got a black car, so I think that's kind of ruined it a bit, which I have to wash that like twice a week.
Well, we just got a new car and I budget a certain amount, like $25 a month for washing, like assuming I'll wash it once or twice a month.
And then take it somewhere.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking, do I want to? Because my time's worth more per hour. I could just be selling or whatever. Maybe I should just go to one of those places, sit there and make a few calls.
Yeah, that is more productive than you getting on your hands and knees.
But there is something you're right about, like washing your own. Maybe I should do it like once every 2 months.
Just to humble you again.
It is.
Yeah,
it's
like
nice.
it's I don't know. There's a bit of nostalgia to it. My old man would still to this day the guy could easily afford to have someone wash his car for him, but he just he'll do things like classic immigrant mentality. He'll do that. The backyard, he had to put tan bark around all the plants, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to hire someone.
He goes out and buys
he did it himself.
Yeah.
Wow, and he did it for 8 hours straight, and he's got all these prickly plants. So his arm is like covered in sores from the plants because he's like putting in tan bark in between them and shit. And I'm just like, you could have spent $250 and you could have had someone come
out, do it all for you.
Do it for you, and he's like, No, but I just want to do it
I
myself.
need a bit more of that. I need that hardcore immigrant work
It's
mentality
nice.
of like.
But it's rubbed, like, so I don't like doing shit like that now because of it.
It's nice doing things yourself.
Yeah.
My dad's the same. Grows his own tomatoes, makes his own alcohol, like makes his everything is homegrown and that kind of. And like the car washing, it's nice just creating with your hands or doing with your hands here and there as like it's a way to pass the time as well. And
yeah,
it's
that's why I like
therapeutic as well.
the bonsai stuff is because you can't be on your phone,
Yeah, it's a good point.
and it's just you in your head.
Yeah.
So you sort of work out a lot of shit, oftentimes.
Yeah, you need that time when you're busy, but yeah, you still you have a clear mind because you're busy with your hands only.
Yeah.
Right.
What alcohol does your old man make? Is it vodka?
Is there a name?
Is there
a name for like
Is it moonshine?
Very,
or-
very
pure,
strong.
like moonshine, something that comes out that you have to literally dilute in order
Does
to
he
be able to drink
use like a
it?
grain or a root vegetable? Or
So we used to make our own wine there,
Okay.
and you'd step on the grapes with your feet to make them.
That's fun.
And then use all the pulp and all the stuff that you can't use for the wine. You use that and you put it into the
the garden?
distillery machine thing.
Ah, okay.
And come out clear, like 80-90% alcohol. You light it to see if it's like it burns blue. You can barely see it, and then you dilute it down. Put a few herbs and things in there. But
Okay, so
you don't
he's-
want to try. I'm not even trying to sell it. You don't
Yeah,
try.
yeah.
I don't drink. Don't.
He's distilling. He's making eau de vie. He's making distilled grapes.
You know what? If that's the name for it,
It sounds
you
nice
don't
as
want to
well.
try.
It sounds fancy, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the shit that they use to start making like cognac and stuff like that.
There you go.
So what the first distillation is eau de vie, and then they'll turn like you can have eau de vie. You can actually buy French eau de vie, like little spirits, which are really nice. But you generally use that to make like a cognac or whatever. All right, last question for you guys. Billboard anywhere in Australia? Like, actually, let's place it in Victoria somewhere. Where would it be, first of all, and what would you put on it?
Oh, if I had a billboard somewhere.
Think about placement first. That's an easy one.
I think, when you're about to drive under Crown and there's that
Yeah.
there light up one, I think that's some prime real estate just there.
That's good.
And I love the
yeah.
casino, so it's 2
Okay.
and 2. Yeah.
Just near the Cass. What about you, Ali?
Just trying to think, what's a good intersection with high traffic volume?
Well, there's a few ones that people pull on. Obviously, Punt Road, like Rich Swan
Yeah.
Street Bridge.
Oh, yeah. That is a
airport.
great
St
one.
Kilda Junction. You know where you got the
Oh, yeah, the
highway, you got to go
junction.
right into Punt, but then you've got Fitzroy Street left, you've got Queensborough left.
There's a big billboard there.
There's a few there, I feel like. And there are actually, you'll notice, that's a hotspot, or that they've got like one there, and some
true.
brands take all three of them
They
out.
link 'em up,
and they're all
yeah.
different sizes, and they're all like the same message.
Yeah, for placement, they'll just
So
smother it.
I'd put something, obviously like motivational and whatnot, but I'd literally I just love making
Good vibes.
people
I was
feel
going
good.
to say, that's all I would say.
Love making people feel good. I just have the billboard that just says "Have the best day ever." That's it, and then make it count. Like, have a great day. Like, put a smile on your face, and then
make it count.
and then do something. Towards,
Mine would say,
towards
don't
getting-
trust the guy saying have a good day.
Hey, not asking for anything in return. Just have a great day. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine your
Yeah.
billboard having like an espresso martini on one side and just like the caption, "Have a good day." Or good
Have a
vibes.
good day.
Yeah, the
Something
word
like that.
vibes written underneath, yeah.
You know what it is about, like, just random acts of kindness. I don't know if it's
Oh.
a thing, but
It's fact.
just
It feels nice.
if you're talking to anyone, you can just make them feel that little bit better.
Yeah, it's true.
Or just put a smile on their face.
Yeah.
So that's
good
what I do. It's good vibe. Yeah. Again, the vibes thing is.
Paramount.
I understand the controversy around the word because it's like just so.
It can
annoying
get
and
flogged
pretentious
to
and
death
whatnot,
though as well.
But I only mean it in the best way. I just mean good,
I
good
can
energy.
testament to that, yeah.
I think people get that. People who get you get that for sure.
Yep.
Gents, thanks for coming in. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Definitely. So,
Online.
on the line,
Yeah, on the line.
sourci.com.au.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure all our social media handles are sourci.co.
Okay.
On the website, there's just tons of resources. Even if you're someone who's not ready to start or you just want to learn more, we've got great blogs, free reports that help people as well. And, our team's always happy to have a chat and see how we can help.
What about for you guys personally? Which platform are you most prominent on?
Probably say Instagram now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Instagram,
changed, yeah.
LinkedIn's obviously the typical one, but yeah, shoot us a message on Instagram. You'll hear back within, however long, a day or whatever. But LinkedIn, I don't open that every day.
What are your handles?
Mine's just Ellie Vaisman.
Yeah.
One word.
Jeez, I think mine's geo.pino. Is it?
P-I-O? I don't know. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it is.
G-O-P-O.
I'm in all these photos anyway. You get to him, you get to me.
Yeah, if you get to him, you get to you. We'll link it all. But, gents, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
No worries, mate.
Thanks,
It's
mate.
been a pleasure.
It's been really fun.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you do like it, please subscribe, and of course, like if you're watching the YouTube video as well. We'd really appreciate that. You can also find our Clips channel in the description. For audio, if you're not already listening, you can search Uncommon on Pocket Cast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts quite easily. For video, if you're not watching, you can search Uncommon on YouTube. And for behind the scenes takes and clips on social media, then definitely check out @uncommon_show on Instagram. But otherwise, look, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, thanks for listening.